The morning sun had only just begun painting soft gold across the glass towers of Helios district when the chaos started. A runaway construction drone, its navigation system suddenly misfiring, barreled toward the crowded sidewalk. Screams rose, people scattered, and in the middle of the rush stood a 5-year-old boy frozen in shock. No one could reach him in time. No one, except the quiet man in a faded grey maintenance uniform who sprinted forward with the precision of lightning. In one fluid motion, he slid across the pavement, scooped the child into his arms, rolled out of the drone's path, and shielded him with his own body as the machine crashed into a lamppost behind them. It took only 3 seconds. 3 impossibly long, heroic seconds, and there, standing a few yards away, witnessing it all with wide eyes, was the CEO of Helios Innovations, Ariel Vaughn, her breath catching as she tried to understand how the most unassuming man on the block had just moved like a trained warrior. If you believe kindness deserves a second chance, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Touch of Kindness. Your support helps us bring more heartfelt stories to life. When the dust settled, the quiet man didn't wait for applause. He simply checked the boy for bruises, whispered reassuring words, and handed him back to his terrified mother. His calmness was almost eerie, as if saving lives before breakfast was something he had done more times than he could count. Ariel watched him walk away, noticing how his posture shifted from heroic to invisible the moment the crowd stopped looking. His name, according to the ID badge clipped to his uniform, was Rylan Creed, a janitor, a single father, a nobody, at least on paper. But Ariel felt something stir inside her, something she couldn't yet name. That same afternoon, Rylan arrived at his next shift at Helios Innovations, sweeping the marble floors of the lobby with the same quiet determination he used to tackle every task. He carried his weight like a man who had lived several lifetimes. People often overlooked the tall, broad-shouldered worker who barely spoke a word, unaware of the storms behind his calm eyes. Rylan had been living small on purpose, shrinking himself into a life of routine so that the ghosts of his past would never rise again. His only world now was his son, Mason, bright-eyed, curious, and the one reason Rylan kept fighting through the nights haunted by memories he refused to revisit. Rylan thought he had mastered the art of invisibility, but that illusion cracked when Ariel descended the lobby staircase. She walked with the confidence of someone who had built her own empire from ashes, but her expression softened the moment she spotted him. She thanked him again for saving the child outside. Rylan simply nodded and said it was nothing. But the way Ariel stared at him, it wasn't the look people gave at a janitor. It was the look of someone trying to solve a mystery, and she wasn't wrong to be curious, because 10 years ago, Rylan Creed wasn't a janitor. He was one of the most highly trained operatives in a covert international special forces unit. A legend whispered through briefing rooms, a ghost no enemy ever saw coming. But legends, as he learned, paid a price. After one mission shattered everything he believed in, he walked away from the world of shadows and chose a life where no one knew his name. Ariel didn't know any of that. All she saw was kindness, humility, and a bravery he didn't try to display. It was the sort of quiet strength that had grown rare. She found herself thinking about him longer than she intended. She noticed how he helped elderly visitors without being asked, how he repaired a flickering light in the lobby, even though maintenance wasn't his responsibility, how his smile, when it briefly appeared, carried the warmth of someone who had been through a war and chose gentleness anyway. This intrigued her more than it should have, especially since she wasn't the type to be distracted. But Rylan wasn't a distraction. He was a gravitational pull. Over the next few days, Ariel kept crossing paths with him, coincidentally, she told herself, though her steps had unconsciously slowed each time she saw him. She began asking small, casual questions about his day, about Mason, about how long he had worked there. Rylan always replied politely, never offering more than what was asked. But Ariel could sense something behind his eyes, a locked door, closed for years, and she wanted to understand why. Their dynamic shifted the day she visited the company's rooftop greenhouse, a hidden gem she often retreated to for clarity. She was surprised to find Rylan there repairing a broken irrigation valve. Sunlight filtered through the glass ceiling, casting soft patterns across his features. He looked different in this light, almost vulnerable. Ariel approached and made a gentle comment about how he seemed to fix everything. For the first time, Rylan laughed, a quiet but genuine sound that disarmed her completely. It was in that moment that something between them silently began, but like all slow-burning connections, it deepened not through grand gestures, but through shared moments that carved their way into the heart. Such moments as when Ariel found Rylan sitting with Mason in the company cafeteria on Bring Your Child Day. Mason had an innocent smile, a dimple on his left cheek, and a habit of gripping his father's sleeve whenever he felt shy. Ariel joined them briefly, offering Mason a chocolate muffin and watching Rylan soften in ways she had never seen. There was tenderness in him, a gentleness she didn't expect from a man built like a fortress. Ariel left that day with a warmth blooming inside her chest. Still, Rylan tried to maintain distance. He couldn't let himself get attached to anything or anyone. His past had left too many scars etched deep beneath his skin. He couldn't imagine explaining to someone like Ariel the things he had done, the bits of his soul he had left behind on missions no one would ever know about. He viewed himself as damaged at best, dangerous at worst. But Ariel saw something else entirely, a man who had been hurt and chose compassion anyway, a man who carried brokenness with dignity. The turning point came on a late afternoon when Ariel discovered Rylan outside behind the building, kneeling beside a co-worker who had collapsed from exhaustion. While others panicked or hesitated, Rylan worked with seamless control, elevating the man's legs, checking his pulse, keeping him conscious. His movements were too practiced, too skilled. Ariel watched him quietly, her heart thudding. This wasn't just basic first aid. This was training, advanced training. And suddenly her mind raced back to the drone incident. Something about Rylan didn't add up. Ariel approached him afterward, gently asking how he had known exactly what to do. Rylan froze for a fraction of a second, then shrugged it off as basic knowledge. But the truth wrapped around that simple answer was unmistakable. He was hiding something. That night, Ariel found herself unable to sleep. Instead, she went to the office early the next morning. That's when she stumbled upon him polishing the marble floors before sunrise. The city light poured through the windows, painting gold across his shoulders. She quietly asked if he was okay. Rylan stopped. For the first time he looked at her, not as a CEO, not as a stranger, but as someone he might trust. And trust for Rylan was sacred. He admitted in fragments that he had lived a very different life before Mason was born. He didn't say special forces, he didn't say missions, he simply said he used to be someone else and that he left for his son's safety. Ariel didn't push, she didn't interrogate, she just placed a hand on his arm and said he didn't have to tell her anything he wasn't ready for. That simple kindness cracked the walls Rylan had spent years building. From that day on, something shifted between them. Their conversations grew longer, their smiles grew easier. They found excuses to linger near each other. Sometimes they shared coffee on the rooftop during breaks, standing side by side in comfortable silence as the city shimmered below. Ariel found herself laughing more. Rylan found himself breathing easier, and Mason, sweet, perceptive Mason, began drawing pictures of Dad and Miss Ariel, which Rylan pretended not to notice. But the real test came unexpectedly. One afternoon, while Rylan and Mason were in the lobby waiting for a taxi, a man from Rylan's past appeared, someone who recognized him instantly. Panic surged through Rylan's body. His past, the one he buried so deeply, had now found him. Ariel saw the tension in his stance as the stranger approached. She watched Rylan subtly position himself between Mason and the man, every muscle coiled, every instinct awakened. It was a glimpse of the soldier he once was. The man said a few words, about a former team, about unfinished business, about dangerous people still searching. Rylan's jaw tightened. He told the man firmly that life was gone. Mason was his only mission now, and when the man finally left, Ariel stepped forward. She gently placed her hand on Rylan's back, reassuring, not questioning. He looked at her then, really looked, and something in him broke. For years he had been surviving,